everyone, it's Tammy with Shabby Fabrics. I have an amazingly creative project for you today. This is the Crazy Hearts wall hanging. This is designed here by Shabby Fabrics. This is an exclusive of ours. We had so much fun putting this together. I just love doing the beads and the charms and the buttons. So if you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, where am I going to get all this fabulous stuff to put on my hearts so that they look like that? Well, I'll tell you, you grab the kit. In the kit, we have bead gravy. This stuff is a lot of fun to work with. There's all kinds of different sizes of beads in here. There's bugle beads, there's seed beads, there's large beads, and you can see on the wall hanging behind me, we used all kinds of different beads. This is where they came from, is one package of bead gravy. We also are including all of the buttons and the bronze charms. I thought it would be fun to put a bronze charm on each one. We have a tree of life, a key, a locket, and a bird. I love these charms, but I know that charms are hard to source, so we source them for you so you don't have to. We've also included your buttons. What fun buttons. These are just beautiful, beautiful flower shapes, little pink ones here. These little dark red ones have little stitches on them. I just love that stuff. So we had a lot of fun putting this together. You get your ribbon to tie your bows. That's included in your kit. All your fabric. But I think probably the most important thing that's included in your kit are your pre-fused laser cut appliques. And I want to show you the background heart. This is what we're using as our background for all of our pieces of our hearts. And I'm going to show you how to cut those and assemble those. But this is something else. I love the scallops around this. I just love it. So if you're feeling very ambitious and you think, oh, I can easily cut and trace hearts, you go right ahead. This is way too ambitious for me to try and cut out all these little tiny pieces. So I have already purchased my kit. So that's a true fact. All right, so let's take a look at your pattern. I want to show you the pattern a little bit. We've got all of your cutting, your fabrics, everything, how to do it. Also included is a full page on how I embellish this one. I wanted to make sure you had a clear understanding of where I put things, what stitches I used, how I did this. That's why we did this. We just wanted to give you a clear picture. So that is included, full color pictures of our wall hanging, close-up pictures. All right, you also have a cutting diagram and a tracing diagram and a layout diagram. A lot of diagrams here. So tracing, if you're doing your own, you're going to use a wafer one light box, and you're going to trace this heart shape, and you're going to trace your scallop heart shape. Cut out 4 hearts of various fabrics, and then your background scallop heart of 1 fabric. We use the same fabric for all 4. Kind of helps them all look like they belong to each other. They all just kind of mesh together. All right, so that's this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut these 2 diagrams apart. We're going to keep the layout diagram over here with this. And I'm going to take my 4 hearts. All right, so I have a cutting diagram. On my cutting diagram, I have cut lines. So my first cut line is referenced by number 1. So I'm going to take one of the lighter colored hearts. You could use either one of these. And I'm going to lay this on here, just like this. And I'm going to take a 2.5 by 12.5 inch ruler by Creative Grids. I like this size to work with. It's easy to maneuver on my project. So I'm going to be using this one almost exclusively today. So I'm going to line up my marks for number 1. This is my first cut. Well, I can't cut this because I need to cut all 4 of them exactly the same. So instead, I'm going to use a friction pen, and I'm going to draw a line point to point, just like that. All right, now don't worry about using a friction pen on here. One, you're going to be pressing this, you're going to take away that friction mark. If there's any faint residue left on there, you are never going to see it because we're going to do some stitching across those hearts to make sure that that raw edge is completely covered up. Never going to see it. So don't worry about using a friction pen on there. All right, then I'm going to stack my hearts. Now I'm going to cut them. Same ruler. I'm going to lay this down. You're going to want to start with a nice sharp blade. I did change this blade, brand new 45 Olfa. This is important because you're going to go through 4 layers. You've got all the fusible on there. You're going to want a very sharp blade. All right, if you have a skip in your blade, oh, that's just not going to make you happy. I know it wouldn't make me happy. All right, so we've got it cut. So I'm going to set this side, this half aside. I'm just going to work with the smaller side now. I'm going to move it back. Let's just move the top one back. Back to my diagram like this. I'm going to take my ruler and I'm holding my heart in place because the ruler might have a tendency to grab it and move the heart and twist it out of your diagram. So we're going to trace a 2. That's cutting line number 2. Now I can't do 3 at the same time because 3 overlaps where this is already cut. So I can't do that. That's why I'm doing this one at a time. So let's go back to 2 on here. So let's get these all together. Just kind of tap them like a deck of cards, right? And cut. All right, this piece is done. Let's move him onto my layout diagram. Those pieces are complete. Let's just leave them there. All right. Let's take this. Let's just take the top one. Ruler. You get the idea. You see what I'm doing here. Now I can mark 3 because I can see those points. All right. Let's get these all together and cut. All right, we're ending up with some kind of odd shapes. So that's why as soon as I have them cut, I definitely move them onto my layout diagram. That way I remember where they go and I don't just have this pile of pieces that now I have to sort through. I want to keep everybody together. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these, finish up, and when I get done with this, I'll see you back here and we'll continue with the next step. Okay, I'm back. I've got all my pieces are cut, so I'm going to set my cutting diagram aside. Let's just work with the layout diagram now. All my pieces are together, but they're not sorted. They're not rearranged. So now we get to do the fun part of rearranging them. So I'm just going to explode this out a little bit, and I'm just going to start playing with this. Let's shuffle these. Just shuffle these pieces around just to get whatever you want. The goal here is to not have the same piece touching. There. It all works out. So when you're happy with your design, now I'm going to transfer that to my heart. You know, I'm actually going to move this stuff out of the way. Slide this over to my cutting mat because I have left the paper on the back of this heart, and that was on purpose. I want this heart just to sit on my pressing mat. I'm going to use an iron on this. Let me get this iron heating up while I'm talking about it. And I'm going to lay my heart on here, and then I'm going to press it. But I don't want this to stick to my pressing mat. So I'm going to leave the paper attached to this. All right, here we go. So if you will note, around the inside of this is the perfect heart shape that I'm now going to fill with my pieces. So let's take the first one off, like this, and set this on here. And you see how I can just maneuver this so that it fits exactly where I want it to go. It fits this shape. There we go. That's one. Let's do this little one here and do the corner. I'm not going to fuse anything down until I get several pieces on my heart. I want to make sure that this really is in the right place. And if it is, everybody, oh, look at that. He fit right in there like I wanted him to. Let's try this one. See if he fits right where I think he should. Yep, it did. See that? How they all fit together. Okay, so I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse those down, all right? Let's go ahead and just set my iron on here. I'm going to hold it for about 5-6 seconds. And I do have this set on medium heat. All right. All right, let's continue. Let's do this one next. And he fits right here. It's kind of like doing a puzzle. I like that. I like puzzles. Spent many hours doing puzzles with my kids and grandkids. Here we go. Good. Sticking to me here. This one goes like this. I'm just making sure that everybody's coming to this outside edge right along there, just to hit that outline of that heart. Set this one in. There we go. That looks good. Everybody just kind of adjusts a little bit. See that? And that's okay. Everybody can adjust. They all just kind of fit together here. Last one. Go ahead and get this whole thing set down. Make sure he fits where I want him to. That looks good. Okay, I'm happy with that. I think that looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and fuse the rest of this down. There we go. All right, so now if I were making all of them, I have my next heart is all ready to go. You see how I've just kind of shuffled, whoop, I did not mean to do that. I just kind of shuffled all of these pieces, and in doing so, now I have, this heart looks completely different from this heart. I only see each piece twice on here. Now I'm ready to go with my next heart. So you can just keep fusing your hearts down, all right, once you get this set like that. All right, but for today, I'm just going to set this aside because I just need the one to continue with what we're doing. Let me clean up my table a little bit here. We'll set that up there. All right, now, okay, so let's look at our background fabric. This is beautiful fabric. So what I have attached to the back of this is shape flex. I think it's important to have some kind of stabilizer on the back because we're doing so much stitching on this. I think it's important that we have a stabilizer. So we do have shape flex here. This is going here. So I have fused that on here. So I'm going to fussy cut this and show you how I would fussy cut a stripe like this. Move some of these other rulers out of the way. All right. So what I want to do first is I want to find a line in the pattern And I'm just going to follow that with my ruler. And I like this 2.5 by 24.5 inch ruler whenever I'm doing any straightening work with this. It's just easy to use. It's very easy to line this up exactly where I want it. Like this. And now I'm just going to give this a cut. So I'm not looking at any measurements on my mat anywhere. I didn't look at anything except the fabric. The fabric is the important part here. All right. So let's cut an 8.5 inch piece now. So now I'm going to use my 8.5 by 24.5 inch ruler. And since this line is straightened, this cut will be straight as well. Or at least that's a theory. Let's test that. All right. Let's see if that's true. Yep, it looks pretty true to me. I like that. Okay, here we go. Let's give it a cut. All right. And then you could go ahead and cut your other set. I just need one. I'm going to set that aside. All right, let's cut this side. So I'm just going to trim this up. So now I am going to use my mat. I'm going to use the lines on my mat. I'm just going to lay this straight on here. And I'm just going to clean this edge. I want this edge perfect. There we go. And I'm going to cut an 8.5 inch square. I like to use this 8.5 by 24.5 inch ruler for cutting 8.5 inch blocks like this. 1 and 2. Just that quick. There we go. No problem. All right. So, set one of these aside. All right. So I'm just going to kind of find the center of my block. I'm just going to fold it in half like this. I'm just going to give it a really light press. I don't want a press that's in there that's so hard to get out that it's going to be there forever. I just want a really light press, just enough so that when I put this heart on here, I can see where center is. So I'm going to peel the paper off of the back of my big heart now. There we go. Beautiful. It's like a little doily I have left over with my paper. I like that. All right. And I'm just going to center this on here. And I have the creases in the center of my heart and here at the bottom. So I know I'm centered this way. And just center your heart. Just like that. And let's fuse him to your background. All right, now we get to have fun. I like this part. So normally when we do a quilt like this, we would do all of our applique, you put it together, and then you would start quilting your quilt, and then you would embellish it. However, because there's so much embellishing on these hearts, I found it much easier to embellish these hearts just like this. That's why we put the shape flex on the back. That's going to hang on to your heart. It's going to make that retain its shape so that it's not going to fray. My edges don't fray out because they're protected. It's not going to shrink up on you. This is how I'm going to embellish this. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to start playing with stitches. So I would take just a plain white muslin and a piece of shape flex. That's what I've attached to the back of this. You want to mimic this fabric as close as possible when you're playing with stitches. That way you're going to get a true understanding of what your stitches look like and what they're going to look like in your project, right? We have a thread set here, and this is silky 12 weight thread. It's heavier than a 50 weight. I used a 12 weight thread because I wanted my stitches to show up, all right? So what we did was we started playing with the machine, and we just started looking at all the different stitches that we could use to do crazy quilting with. Your machine has got a ton of stitches on it. Have fun play with them, but definitely use your 12-weight thread, your shape flex, and muslin to try and play with this so that you get a good understanding of how that thread is going to behave, how it's going to look when it gets onto your project. Then take a friction pen and just make a note. So what we have done is we've just noted the stitch number. A lot of times we just use the stitch as it showed up. If we would have made a change to it, this one was a little bit smaller, we should have noted here that we did this smaller. I did not note that on this. However, all of these stitches are done just at regular, full percent. You click into a stitch and just sew with it. Then you're good just to write your stitch number on there, and that's what we have done. So this is the BERNINA stitches that we used. You can see there's a lot of them. This stitch is a lot of fun. When I was stitching with this thread, this is a size 12 and it is a heavier thread. I used a larger needle on this. I used a size 100. I used a super non-stick. Super non-stick is they're Teflon coated. That means the needle is going to slide back and forth through the fusible much easier and cause a lot less friction, which interprets to less thread breakage. I love that part. Nobody likes to sew when your thread breaks all the time. It gets very frustrating. I've been there. I know that. The right needle can help you with that. Also, play with your tension. If you're having problems with your thread breaking a lot, loosen your tension. Tension is a huge part of thread breaking. Loosen your tension. That will give you better results as well. All right? So then we would just take this to our machine. You put in a color thread, whatever color you want to start with, and just start stitching on it. But I would have all 4 hearts and do a different part of each heart with the same stitch, right? So then they're all different. I like that part, okay? Once you get that done, then we're going to do beadwork, all right? Beadwork, now this was fun. This was a lot of fun. You're going to open your beads, and I actually have a pack of beads right here I'm going to open. This is what we had left after doing all of our beads. So it's half full still. There's still a lot of beads in here. But when I open this, I was very careful. There we go. This paper comes out. Now I use this as a bead tray. This has got a little lip on it right here, okay? There's a little lip. So then I was able to start using this as a bead tray. And I can actually go through here and just start picking out the beads. And I just started sorting them to see what beads I have and what fun things I can make with them. These beads look like stones. They're so cool. There's triangle beads, there's circle beads, these bugle beads are fun. We use these a lot when we made flowers with them. How fun is this? All right. So sometimes poking through the fusible can be a problem, and I do realize that. For the most part, I used a Richard Hemming embroidery needle. If you're worried that your bead is not going to fit through this, test it. Grab a bead, put it on your needle, pull it through. If it goes through, you're good to start going. If it doesn't, if you're using a finer seed bead, you're going to need to use a straw needle, all right? Now, I know I'm not the only one that has ever poked a needle into the back of my finger, under my fingernail. However, this is not a fun part of doing handwork. So I found something for you. These are the Gypsy Quilter Nailed It open thimbles. The reason they're called an open thimble is because they're open on the back. I like that. They also come in a pack of 2. Do you notice how these are different sizes? This is a medium and this is a large. So you don't have to make a decision, do I need the medium or do I need the large? I don't have a clue. Everybody's hands are a little bit different. Buy this pack, you have 1 of each. Now you're covered, right? I love that. So the larger one will fit like on the back of this finger or on my index finger. I like it there. Or if you like to use a different finger, like my ring finger, look, that fits right on there. One thing I've noticed about these thimbles when I was using these, the back of this needle goes into the divot in the back. You see these divots? They're not just decoration. This is a safety thing. I love this. These divots are very deep, and you can see that needle is not going anywhere when I set that in the divot. I'm going to try to do this so the camera can see that. You see that? That needle's not going anywhere. I have a metal thimble that was probably my grandmother's, and it's getting worn, and the divots on it are not that deep anymore. So they're not really divots, they're more like dimples, right? And they're very shallow. The needle will slide along those and come right off to my finger. It's like, wait a minute, I'm wearing a thimble. Why do I have sudden pain here? Ah, the needle slid right off the thimble, right into my finger. That won't happen with this. I did not have that happen one time with this. These thimbles are amazing. They hang on to that. They hang on to that needle, the back of that needle. It's not going to go into your finger. I love that. Okay? So if you don't have a good thimble, pick these up. These are not that expensive. You get a set of 2, medium, large. We've got you covered. All right? When we did the hand embroidery on this, we used Thread Magic, and we used this thread. We did use the 12-weight thread to do the hand embroidery stitches. We have given you a guide for that, and I can show you quickly how we did that. So we used a double thread when we did the Lazy Daisy, and let me show you that here. Just going to tie a quick knot here, something like that. All right. So I have a center that I'm going to shoot for. That's all I need is a center. And this is on one of our hearts. You're going to come up. I just kind of curve my thread around. I'm going to go back in where I came up, and I'm going to go out and make sure that my thread is tucked underneath. And I'm a good 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more. Depends on what size of flower you want. You want a smaller flower, take a smaller jump. Bigger flower, take a bigger jump. Right up, petals, and I'm just going to anchor that petal just like that. To make the next stitch, you simply come back up in the center, loop your thread around. That way it's kind of laying there waiting, right? It's waiting for me to come back up like this. There we go. And a stitch down to anchor it. So then, what to do in the center of our flower when we get our flower done? Well, let's pick up a bead. I love just grabbing a bead with my needle. Let's bring our needle to the front. From the back, that's not going to work very well. There we go. Grab our bead and stick our bead on there. Just like that. There we go. Kind of pulled my little flowers a little bit there. There we go. And stick a bead in the center. All right. So as you're stitching along, if you need some more ideas about stitches, definitely check out this embroidery and crazy quilt stitch tool. This book has got some amazing stitches in here to help you figure out what to do on your quilt, help you plan your hearts. I did a stem stitch and a French knot and a little Lazy Daisy flower. Very simple. I kept it simple. I let the machine do most of the work and do the machine embroidery stitches. But if you like to do more handwork, definitely pick up this tool. It's got a great guide for right-handed and left-handed. This is the guide you're going to want. Glue. Let's talk about glue. That's the other thing I have here. Roxanne's Glue Base It is your best friend sometimes. I love Roxanne's Glue Base It. I do use it a lot on some of these projects, especially when I'm dealing with buttons. I'm going to take a little bit of glue. I'm just going to put little dabs, and I'm going to stay away from the holes. as much as possible. A little bit of dabs wherever you want to put a button. Say you want it right here. Stick your button on there, and it hangs onto it. So now, after that glue dries, I can easily stitch that button on, and I can move around with my project. And my buttons are not going to get lost. I love putting them on with Roxanne's Glue Base Stitch. After you get all of your lines stitched, applique this down, audition your bow. Now start putting all your things on here. Your charms, your buttons wherever you like them. I tried to keep the buttons in threes when I did this. I put them on here. You can do whatever you want. If you want to put your buttons all over the place, you can. You can keep them in a row, whatever you choose to do. Do your beads, beadwork inside of your stitches. Have fun creating, have fun making these unique and making them your own. So I think the most important thing about this tutorial is get your kit. We have a limited number of kits available. Definitely get your kit. It's going to come with a pattern, full color pictures on how we embellished our hearts. It will have your bead gravy in there, your buttons, your charms. Grab your thread set if you don't have 12-weight cotton thread. I love to use that silky thread. It's not that much, just grab it. Grab your thimbles if you don't have a nice thimble. That's really important here. I use these thimbles a lot when I was doing this. Grab your needles, grab some glue if you need it. Most important, get your kit. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've had a good time learning about how to make a crazy pieced heart by Shabby Fabrics. I look forward to seeing all of your fun hearts if you post them on social media. I would love to see your hearts. We will see them all. Michelle and her team will respond to you, and she does take snapshots of what she's seen, and she does show them to me. So I really do get to see your stuff. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time on a Shabby Fabrics tutorial.